guys, today we're going to paint at Water Park, and we're gonna make sure that our canvas is in this direction and not in this one. The first thing we're going to do is start painting the background. For the sky's background, we're going to mix a light blue using our blue and our white. Okay, to do that, I'm going to use one of my brushes. I'll pour some white on my plate. And then I'll pour some blue on my plate. I will mix them both together by picking a little bit from the bottom, placing it in another location, and then doing the same with the white. Pick it from the bottom, place it in that location. And we're going to start mixing them by pushing them from the sides to the center, so that way you don't spread it in your plate and then stay in a little mountain, and you'll have enough paint for your sky. Okay. Now once you have a light blue that you like, we can go ahead and start painting our sky. To know what area your sky is going to be, just try to find the middle over here, the middle of the canvas, and then from there you're going to start painting from one corner of the canvas to the other using your brush, and then I'll come back in the other direction to make sure I cover all of the space. Try to spread that paint as much as possible. Do not leave any blobs behind. We want this to dry. You don't want it to wait. You don't want to wait forever for it to dry. So let's just spread it like this. Once you're done with that, you can always paint the sides of the canvas. It's totally optional, only if you want to do it. So we'll do over here this side, then the top area, and then the other side. Okay, now we're going to make the blue that is going to be for the water. Similar to the one we created before, is going to be blue and white, but this time there is going to be a little pinch of red. The idea is that we create a darker blue at one point, okay? So I'm gonna show you how to do that. I'll start with a light blue by mixing blue and white. This time I'm going to make sure there's not so much white like before, so less white than before, and I'll blend them together in a separate spot. You push the color so it stays in the center, beautiful like this. Now my next color is going to be blue, and I'm going to add a little teeny bit of red. Now if you notice, I didn't clean my brush because I wanted to stay with that little amount of white I had there. Okay, so there I have it. I have a light blue, and then I have a darker version of that. I'm going to start with the lighter one and start painting right where I finished painting over here with the lighter blue. Now, before I start, I want to make sure I do a little line indicating where the land is going to be. And to do so, I can use either one of my blues and just do a little highlight over there that's gonna let me know when to stop. Now, let's start with this neon blue over here. And you're going to start painting right below this lighter blue line. And again, I have color on both sides of my brush. With one side I go in one direction, with the other side I go in the other direction, making sure I cover all of the spaces. Okay. I'm gonna keep painting towards the bottom. Make sure to spread that paint as much as possible so we don't keep any blobs in there. Now as I'm getting closer to the end, I'm going to change to the darker blue over here. And I'll start painting a little farther away, but I will go up so that they can blend together. Nice. And I'll keep painting with that darker blue all the way to the bottom. Perfect. Now, once I'm done with the water and the sky, I'm going to make the color for my sand. Now, the color for my sand, it could be a little complicated if you put too much red in it. So just make sure that as we're mixing this color, we do not add too much red to the mixture. I'm going to show you how to make that one shortly. So I'm going to make sure that in my plate I have yellow, red, and white. Again, I put them in separate locations to make sure that I don't, that if I need one of the colors the most, I can pick from the original one. You see over here I have my red, my yellow, and I still have that white I poured at the beginning. I'm going to start with yellow, place it in a separate spot. To that I am going to add a little teeny drop of red in comparison to the amount of yellow. Look at the amount of red I have. It's just a little bit. And then to that I'm also going to add white. Okay, I'll blend them all together. And I think it looks too dark, so I'm going to start adding more white to it. Okay, it should look like a light skin color. Once you get the color that you like for your sand, we're going to start painting the rest of the canvas with that color. Make sure to spread it as much as possible. Here we go. This looks very, very nice. And it's okay if you paint a little bit over the water or in areas that you still have blue and they blend together a little bit at the end, it's totally fine because we're going to add later on a little bit of white to create the texture of the water, okay? Now you guys can pause and rewind this as needed. Right now I'm going to make an orange that is going to be the orange for our sun. So for that it's just yellow and red. You decide what amount of yellow and red you use. However, like I mentioned in other classes, having a lot of red is going to look just red because this red is really pigmented. So ideally you would just use more yellow than red and you would still get a beautiful orange. Okay, so once you have the orange that you like, we can go ahead and create a circle in the canvas. Now there's two ways that I like to do this. One way is using a small round brush and drawing a circle with the small round brush. The other way is using a flat brush like this one, and while one end of my brush stays in the same spot, the other end is going to go around in a circular motion. And here's how that goes, okay? I'm gonna place it over here. One side stays in the same spot and the other side goes in circular motion. Okay, now still using this color, I am going to go close to the sun and do some clouds, okay? But here's how those are going to look. It's going to be just like straight lines, or kind of straight lines. You wiggle them a little bit around the sun area. And this is going to be behind some of the clouds that we're going to create later, but right now I'm doing them so to create some highlights. Okay, and then if your water is dry, you can go ahead and in the water do a little bit of a reflection of the sun by doing some zigzags. Okay, perfect. Now the next color we're going to create for our sky is going to be a light lilac purple. So make sure your brush is clean, and for this color we're going to use blue, red, and white. I have a little bit of extra from the light blue I made before. Into that I'm going to start adding red. Ideally it's going to be more red than blue, so I'm going to need a little bit more over here. There we go. Until you have a pretty lilac color. Now, similarly to what we were doing with the orange clouds, we're going to start dabbing to create the shape of our clouds, but just make sure that you don't have a lot of paint on your brush. You can use your paper towel to get rid of the excess, or you can just spread it a little bit on your plate. And we're going to start creating the shapes in the sky. It doesn't really matter what brush you're using as long as it is kind of flat. Now, if you create a lighter purple by adding a little bit of white to it, you can go ahead and use that on some parts of the clouds to make them look lighter. It's going to create more texture in the clouds, give it more perspective, and you just add that in some spots. On the bottom part, we're just gonna add a couple of those purpley clouds, but not as much as we have on the top. They should be a little bit smaller. Take some pictures of your process, okay? Take some pictures of how it started, and later at the end we take another one, and that way you'll see how your painting evolved and how like you started with something that maybe you weren't so sure about but then ended up with something you love. We can add that lighter purple on top of those smaller clouds too. Now make sure your brush is clean once you're done with your purple clouds. And we're going to go back to our sandy color. And to that, you're going to make sure you add more yellow. Something like this. It's gonna look darker than the sand color, okay? But it's a similar one. And then it's just a lot of yellow, a little bit of red, and then almost I think it would be halfway in the white, okay? But there's gonna be more yellow than the other two. Now with that, you're going to start creating the clouds that are gonna go on the bottom, connecting to the water. Just making sure my brush is not too wet and that it doesn't have any purple left. So we start at the bottom over here to create those clouds. I'm gonna put that on the bottom of the purple cloud over here on the top, as if the sun is reflecting in that area. Perfect. So once you feel proud of the colors you have in your clouds, we can go ahead and add a little bit of that reflection in the water using that same color. Just make sure you use either your small round brush or just a thinner brush, and do a little bit of those clouds over here in the water in a zigzag form. Perfect. So now I'm going to go to the color white. And with my white, I'm going to add some extra highlights, especially in the area where the water connects with the sky. So I'm just gonna add a couple of lines that is gonna make it look more like water. You can also add some original blue lines. Now let's go to this area over here where we're going to create our pairs. You're going to mix brown with white to create that first color. So just pour a little bit of brown on your plate and mix it with a little bit of white. Beautiful, like that. It's gonna look something like this. And now that color we're going to use to first do the lines, and then we're going to color it in. So you're going to start in the sand area. We're going to do a diagonal line that is going to go towards the sun, okay? So let's start over here, and you can do both or just one. Start with my line over here, like that. Perfect. Now towards the bottom, I'm going to add a little straight line down. And then on the top, I'm going to add a straight line to the side. Exactly where those two lines end, I'm going to do a parallel line to the first line that I did, okay? Gonna be there we go. So here I have one, and I'm going to create a second one, okay? This one is going to be a little bit farther away. Perfect. Now the top area of this is going to be painted with that same light brown. Okay, and then the side is going to be a darker brown. You can either use just your brown, but just your brown is going to look a little bit transparent. So if you mix brown with black, you can get a darker black that's a little bit thicker and will cover more space of the painting. Okay, so the bottom part over here. That was an accident. Can remove it right away. Here we go. Okay, nice. Next step, we're going to start adding our waves. To add our waves, we're going to use white. You can use a medium flat brush, or you can use your small round one. The idea is that we create some curves that are not going to be perfect, and they're going to be very close to the beach area. Now, where it connects to the pier, we can add a little bit of more texture in that area as if the water is hitting it. Nice. Underneath my waves, I'm going to add a darker blue. It could be my original blue. Or to make a darker blue, you can add a little drop of black to your blue, or a little drop of red to your blue. Okay, once you have that darker blue, you can go under the waves and start adding some of that. Underneath the waves that are touching the sand already, you can add your original brown there, just to make it look a little bit darker, as if the sand has gotten wet with the water. Perfect. Now our last step is to create some lines on the piers, and I'm going to use my dark brown for that. It's going to be some straight lines that are going to come up on both sides. Okay. And using white, I'm going to do a little bit of highlights in that area too. As if the sunlight is shining on it. In my case, I would like my sun to be a little bit more orange, so I'm gonna go ahead and try to add a little bit of more orange in this area so it can pop more. And you can do the same in the clouds and just add some couple of more orange lines where the sun will be reflecting. And there we go, guys. You have your painting. Make sure to put your initials or your name in one corner of the canvas, so that way you'll know you created this piece of beautiful art. And feel free to join one of our other classes at any time and day. You can play it, rewind it, pause it, and yeah, have a wonderful rest of your day. Thank you so much for joining us.